Potential threats to compliance is also on the same page 254 of SM. Potential threats to compliance. What are the threats to compliance? Is identification of new vulnerabilities, changes in legal or regulatory requirements, as we talked about a few slides back, where the PMO also keeps an eye on it, and the legal department also, so that's why they keep an eye on it. Errors in testing. Errors in testing is very important. One final example is that we manufacture something in engineering or manufacturing plant, then every pipe that is being used has to have a heat trace. It's called the heat number. What does that mean? When was it produced? Just like we purchase milk or bread, we know exactly when that was produced. And now if there's something goes wrong, we can track it. You remember a while back, I think was Tylenol or something, where they could track that what happened with that. Somebody was injecting something in there. They could backtrace it and say, where was it manufactured? Then they go and see where it was distributed, and then you can pinpoint as to where it happened. Errors in testing is very important in engineering scenario. We use various instruments to test various things, for example, pressure, temperature, flow meter. But in order to use those instruments need to be calibrated. Now, if those instruments are not calibrated and the calibration is outside the calibration due date, that means it's past the due date, then we already have an error in the testing and validation, which could then be a potential threat to the compliance. Because if the instrument was not calibrated properly, and hence it's giving false reading, we would think that everything is okay according to the compliance, but in reality, it was not, right? Errors of bugs and deliverables, and lack of awareness of compliance requirement. This is a threat, very huge threat. Well, I was not aware of that. Well, hold on for a second. That's your responsibility. Read the specifications. What are you manufacturing? And what compliance are required? For example, in the United States, we have different codes and standards than CSA. CSA is the Canadian Standard Association. They have their own standards. So, for example, for egress is when within a building and something happens, then you need a minimum width of, let's say, 28 inches so you can exit out in the event of an emergency. Well, in Canada, it's a lot wider. It's somewhere like 38 inches. All right. So you just lack of awareness of compliance requirement. That's true, but also lack of awareness of compliance requirements in different countries. That's the responsibility that we should research during the planning stage so that this does not happen. So all this identification of new vulnerabilities, changes in legal and regulatory requirements, errors or bugs in the deliverable, or lack of awareness of compliance requirements are potential threats to compliance.